Hey lovelies, welcome back. I'm Daniel.
And I'm Garet, and we're your hosts of Modern Gaze. In the spirit of Sabrina Carpenter's new album, Short and Sweet, we're going to do just that.
Because keeping it short and sweet, Garet, is very mindful.
Very demure.
It's very
cutesy.
We love it.
I can tell a story that lasts probably about 7 decades.
You can go on and on and on. And I always tell you, hurry up, get to the point. What do you want? What are you trying to say?
I like the story. I like the drama.
But you don't need to build...
actually tell all of the details.
I know,
Paint
you
the
just
picture, as
you
they
like
say.
to build it up because then you get the reward you think you're going to get. But sometimes you can build something up so much and climax and you just don't get it.
And then nothing.
Nothing. That's a letdown.
You know what's bad?
What?
Is that every time I'm telling a story, it goes on and on and on.
Right.
And about, I don't know, maybe 6 out of 10 times it's actually worth it. The other 4 times, which is not a good percent, like 40% of the time, I think I'm boring people. Like I can see the spark in their eye leave. And they're like, okay, yeah. And then what happened? Like, get to the point.
So do you feel like you're short and sweet now in your life or not?
Well, I can appreciate short and sweet. And I know that I've been able to be much more aware of how I talk and I can read people a bit better. So I have to read the room. Like if I know the story is worth it and I know that person is like into all the drama, like for our friend Angela, for example, she loves the story and I can get into all the details and she wants it all. And then you're like, hurry it up, wrap it up, get to the point. And she's like fully in it.
Right.
Most people aren't.
But maybe people are just pretending to be fully in it. I'm not saying Angela, we love Angela, but I'm just saying people may pretend to be really into anyone's story, but maybe they're actually not.
Okay, so you know what's really short and sweet is the news cycle. Like everything is just like popping up and it's gone. Like this whole breakdance thing at the Olympics took over and then it was gone.
Speaking of, did you see recently that there is a gay Olympics bid?
Gay games
to be held in Melbourne?
Yeah, so they're bidding for it in 2030.
2030, there is a gay games.
And you know what makes us a bad gay?
What?
We didn't even know it existed.
Until this morning.
So I don't even know, we still don't know what happens. Like I don't even know what you do at the gay games. I just know they're having one and Melbourne is actually bidding for it.
Well, it's technically like the gay Olympics and there's this whole controversy debacle because Melbourne officially released hosting the Commonwealth Games.
After spending a shit ton of money.
Well, it was going to cost them $2 billion in comparison to the gay games or the gay Olympics only costing $600 million. And that's it. But I mean, that's like 4 times extra the amount.
Okay, but what happens at the gay games?
Well, there's essentially anyone can play. So it doesn't have to only be for like the LGBTQ community for contestants.
So it can be all the allies.
Anyone can play.
That wants to participate.
It's an open sport.
Very inclusive.
Yeah. And they have different games like swimming, soccer, bodybuilding, dancing. I hope not breakdance, maybe voguing.
Okay.
But there's a lot of different sports within the gay games.
Okay. So I thought it would be much more like stereotypical and like expected, but it's actually just really focused on sport.
Yeah,
still.
Exactly.
Why does it have to be a gay games when anyone could be gay in the Olympics?
Well, it was founded in 1982 by Dr. Tom Waddell to basically declare a safe space for members within the community to openly compete without any discrimination.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I like it.
I want to participate. I'm going to go dancing.
Okay.
I'm going to participate in the Gay Games dancing competition.
I love it.
Us gays, we just know how to do stuff.
Well, what about modern gays?
That's easy. Modern gays do everything.
So, what should be short and sweet in life?
Well, I know it's something that should not be short and sweet. Pancakes. It should not be short and sweet. It should be a full stack.
Full stack.
Full thick stack and creamy and strawberries.
Okay, just as long as it's sweet.
As long as it's sweet.
Okay. What else should be short? What should be short and sweet?
What should be short and sweet?
You know what I think should be? Holding times. Like if I ever have to hold or stand in line, not happening. Like if I see a line that's going on, if it's not short and sweet, I'm not standing in it. I'm not waiting. Call me back.
Okay. You know what should be short and sweet is an interaction at the gym.
Okay. Yeah. Like a high buy situation.
High buy. I'm in the middle of a workout. I don't have time to talk about my weekend and the day and like how I'm feeling and like what's happening in my life. It's not the right time and place.
Right. Like 10 minutes later, your heart rate has dropped.
And
you forgot what you're doing and now you got to go.
Yeah. Like I think there are moments in life where things are meant to be short and sweet, AKA in the gym, AKA relationships, interactions.
What do you mean relationships and interactions?
Well, sometimes in life, my love, things aren't meant to last forever and things are meant to be short and sweet, which is why Sabrina Carpenter released the album, is because she had so many short and sweet relationships that she was inspired to make a whole album on it.
Oh, okay. That takes a lot of introspection to think about some of your past relationships as short and sweet. And to be honest, like maybe it alleviates some of the pressure or some of the baggage that you kind of feel like you have from those failed relationships, but maybe they didn't fail. Maybe you just learned the lesson you needed to learn. You went through that growth that needed to happen.
Correct. Things come into your life for a season or a reason.
A season or a reason.
Right? And it can be short and sweet, and that's okay, even though it's sometimes sad to let things go. But growing up, when I was like 18 until I probably met you, I had a lot of short and sweet relationships as well. Like nothing really probably lasted longer than, I think my longest relationship was maybe 9 months or almost a year.
Yeah.
But everything else was very transactional, very short, very sweet.
Very mindful, very cutesy.
You know? And I think especially today, like we hear from a lot of our single friends who are dating, how difficult it is to like get past the second date. Like things are very short and sweet.
When I was younger, I was so afraid of short and sweet because I really wanted long-term romance.
Right.
I wanted a partner. I wanted to hurry up and grow up and start my life.
Being an adult.
Yeah. But then I realize now it's just like those moments were so valuable for me. And I wish I didn't always put so much pressure on so many. I mean, I'm glad where I ended up, obviously. But I'm just thinking of like how I could have better served myself and like my own growth to get to the point where I am now. It would have been to just really not be so afraid of short and sweet. Like it could have just been in the moment. Like we talked about the slow man's idea where you are just in the moment, appreciating that person and being able to just really savor that time in your life and not be so focused on what's next.
And sometimes the short and sweet moments can be the best moments because it was a good experience. You had a good time. Maybe you didn't. And moving on to the next, you can have another short and sweet moment again and again and again and again.
Yeah. Well, when things are going on in our lives, which feel like forever, there's challenges in our lives and there's like news cycles, there's the politics, there's everything that's going on around our healthcare and our civil rights and our human rights. Like this is a long-term game.
Right.
And there's a lot of people saying a lot of things. It's important for us to have really out and proud presence, a lot of visibility. And that comes with opening your mouth and speaking and like really sharing your point of view and championing others and really feeling that you need to be heard. And that's really important. So I don't want what I'm about to say to negate that. What I think is that sometimes people need to just zip it. They need to keep it simple and they need to say what they need to say in a shorter amount of words and just really focus on listening. Because I feel like if we're always talking, we're not actually hearing. Like we're not really absorbing the perspectives of other people that are very different from us. For example, there's someone that I follow on Instagram for a while that is a friend of mine from way back in the day. We haven't spoken in forever.
Right.
But she's very well off and comes from a very privileged background. And I always thought she was pretty liberal and like she was really open-minded and like really loving and whatever. Anyway, so she posts like some random, really Republican and very conservative posts that are kind of out of nowhere. And sometimes, you know, my first initial reaction is like, oh, I need to like school this person. I need to like rebut back. And I need to like be like, how can you say that? This is the perspective. This is the platform. This is what's going on. This is how it affects me. And rather than taking that angle, I instead asked her questions. And I said, hey, why do you think that? Why are you posting that? Like, what's your point of view? Like, I'd love to hear it.
I love that because sometimes when I get a short and sweet response to like a story post or a message, it's a little bit vague, right? Like it kind of like causes some room for confusion if it's a bit short and sweet in terms of communication.
How it could be interpreted.
Yeah. And how it can be interpreted, right? Like if you say to someone, lol, Like, and you're actually kind of not
Like,
really.
are you laughing with them or
Is
at
it
them?
sarcastic? Is it derogatory? It's confusion. So having those conversations, like you said, to your friend and asking those questions rather than just responding and being short and sweet by like saying like lol or ridiculous or like saying a little message.
Yeah, like my intention didn't change. Like I still want to communicate and share my point of view, but I want to hear them first so that I can see where they're coming from and understand. And that comes from keeping it simple. Like I don't need to write this whole big, novel over social media about how I'm going to school this person about why this candidate is disgusting and terrible and why this other candidate is less disgusting and less terrible. Like it's going,
even though one is more disgusting than the other.
I mean, one is terrible. I know we don't have to get into politics in this. We'll keep it short, sweet.
Okay.
But
We
I
hate
think
Trump.
but the conversations that we have with our friends and family and people that are like circling around these really important issues, sometimes a lot can be said with less.
Okay. So like, let's say in a scenario where you're meeting someone for the first time or you're going on a date.
Yes.
How can we keep it short and sweet?
Well, you know what they say about when you meet people?
Oh, tell me.
Okay. So when you meet people, there's two questions that happen.
Two questions.
Yeah, the
Are you a
first-
top or bottom is my first question.
That's the third question. Well, that's the first question that you already asked on Garet before you met them in person.
That has to be solidified before you have a date. Got
Okay.
it. Next.
So there's two questions that usually you're asked. The first question is, oh, what do you do?
Right.
Okay. So what do you do is really not so much about your job and like being interested in what it is. It's a way to find how much they will respect you. And that is interesting because usually when you meet people and you're trying to have a conversation, most people who are aware of these kind of stereotypical questions will ask anything but this question. They'll really kind of want to talk about the experience that they're in right now, talk about what you're wearing, or trying to spark up some kind of something in the middle. If you don't have any questions to ask or someone doesn't know what to do, they just be like, oh, what do you do?
Right. It's a bit of a conversation starter.
You're better off asking, like, if it's a mutual friend, oh, how do you know Jessica? You know, it's like that's a better question. But with that question, it's really about assessing respect. It's like, okay, if you say that you're like, oh, I'm a PhD with a bachelorette in robotics, and so, like someone might be like, oh, okay, I don't know anything about that, but that sounds like really impressive. I respect that. Wow, that's like, oh my God. But if you say like, oh, I'm a graphic designer, and I build websites. That's what I do, and I love it.
Right.
But it's like also a way to be like, oh, okay, like that's just like a freelancer job or something. There's some judgment starts to form, right? But by you not just leaning into, just being like, oh, I do this, that's a short and sweet answer. But you can focus on your passion or like what makes you exciting. And that can also be what's short and sweet, but you focus on what you benefit or achieve or like about what you're doing. The second question is where you live. Oh, oh, where do you live? Where are you from?
It gives you a lot of information when you know that.
That is about assessing their class or how much kind of money they have or what they can afford.
I think it's also reflective of someone's lifestyle.
It can be. So it's if you're like, oh, I live in the center of London, or if I'm, I live in
West Hollywood.
Yes, exactly. Or if you say like, oh, I live out in the mountains or I live out in the boondocks in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
Like then that's another assessment of like, oh, okay. Like, or if you say, oh, I live on a 50-acre ranch in Wyoming, people are like, oh my God, he's got money.
Like, oh my God, we're going to come, we're going to have some wine, we're going to put the fireplace on, and I'm going to put Housewives on. It's a night.
Right. Again, that's a short and sweet answer that can also, kind of show your cards really quickly. And those are kind of short and sweet questions that aren't valuable. And I think that there's a difference between short and sweet where you can focus on not so much just like answering these really basic questions, but more about kind of getting into what you love or what you kind of focus on that brings you joy or happiness or can be a catalyst on moving this conversation forward.
I think the other side of being short and sweet, as fun as it sounds, is sometimes it could cause missed opportunities.
What do you mean?
It can cause, like if you just come into something with a very narrow mind and a very short perspective, like this is going to just be like, it is what it is. It's going to be short. Like I'm going to go on a date with someone. It's going to just be a quick date. And you already have that perception of how that date's going to go, or like how much time you're going to give to that date.
Yeah.
You think it's going to be short.
You want to keep it short and sweet from the beginning. Okay. So you go into that on it.
Yeah. If you go into that, I think
you limit yourself.
You're going to be limiting yourself by having that perspective or having that mindset before it's even arrived.
I think it depends on the person, because if someone knows that they maybe can benefit by that kind of structure and maybe they put too much, pressure on it, or they feel like this is going to go on forever and then they're not sure. Like, I feel like if you do put a cap on it sometimes for some people, that in the moment you can be like, oh, you know what? I'm actually enjoying myself,
Right.
Oh, those fake plans that I said I had later, they just evaporated.
Right.
And that's okay, because you can open yourself up, and maybe it's more acceptable for the other people to know, like, oh, okay, like you obviously put a cap on this, but you're enjoying yourself. So I appreciate that you want to spend more time with me.
You want to stay around. That's right.
I don't know. I think that the short and sweet is a good way to approach any interactions, because you can really focus on protecting your energy and also not, overextending yourself and staying longer than you want to stay, or feeling like you're burnt out because you're always providing so much.
But by doing that, do you think that it's going to cause some superficial,
No, I think
relationship?
You need to show up with 100% value in a short amount of time.
I love that, because I'm all about showing up with intention. So making sure that your actions are intentional.
Right.
You're direct, and you give 300% when you're there, and then you can check out.
Like, I can pinpoint, and I won't say names. I'm not going to name them.
Name them.
I know exactly who is in our life, who comes to the table, short and sweet, that gives us full energy, but is then moving on. Like, it's like a quick action, but I feel very kind of like swept up in the goodness.
Like, you can not talk to someone for months, but when you see them, it's like good conversation. They're listening, they're attentive,
right?
They're supportive. And then when you go away, it's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah, I love that.
And I do appreciate those types of relationships too.
I think that's also very much you.
Who?
You as a person.
I'm a short and sweet.
You're a short and sweet. Like, you show up for people when they need you.
Yes.
Like when you're there in person, you're very present. Like, you're very
present.
physical.
Yes.
So when you are in the moment with someone, like, you are there. Like,
right.
you are full on sweet.
That's true. And then I do kind of like go into my hermit
then you go off with the
shell when
fairies.
I'm like by myself.
Yeah.
So I'm not good on socials. I'm not good on keeping in touch with people digitally. But I'm really good in the moment, because that's where I really want to connect with people.
I have to also say that I felt like that with you when we were dating.
Right.
Like, I felt like when we weren't together, I felt a bit of a void and a bit of the distance.
Right.
But when we were together, full body, present, totally with me 130%.
Yeah. Well, I also maybe think that's a bit of generational thing, because like I know that I'm like an older millennial and you're a younger millennial.
Hiya.
Borderline Gen Z.
I am.
Gen Z for the Americans. And I actually think that plays a role, because I know that like I didn't grow up with social media in the way that it exists today. I had all the tech, I had the email, I had like all of, the Facebooks and the MySpaces, but I didn't have like this expectation of constant connection. It's like every single time someone has an event on, you must post a story post and tag them. And
right.
It's like there's so much expectation on what you need to do to show up for people online. And I didn't grow up with that.
Well, I think speaking of online, even everything online is short and sweet now. It's like everyone's posting 7-second reels or 3-second reels, and it's just constantly on repeat. Like,
yeah, I don't think that's sweet. That's what's wrong with the situation, is that it's not short and sweet. It's just short.
right.
And, where everyone's just jumping on the viral trend of like having the 1-second clip. And it's like, sometimes it's a thirst trap. Sometimes it's funny. Sometimes it's like, wait, what's going on? You're trying to decipher. Meanwhile, it's played 17,000 times.
Right.
And their engagement rate has gone up like crazy. And then it gets like 700,000 views in like 3 hours. So that's not sweet to me. That's just short. It's like, where's the value?
What is sweet to you?
What's sweet to me is like something that is valuable.
All facets of life.
Like I want it to be valuable. It needs to come to the table and leave something of value for your life or for your experience.
See, I want it to just be enjoyable.
Yeah, that's for you. That's enough.
Yeah, like if I can leave a situation that I felt good at, or I felt fun, or it was like giving me some energy and some motivation, that's sweet to me.
Yeah. And I mean, it could be sweet and salty.
Oh.
It could be a bit...
I love some salted popcorn, girl.
Sweet and salty is, if you got to say what you got to say, say it quick and say it strong and say it direct. Don't point a finger, point all 5 fingers.
Oh my God. I heard RuPaul say the other day, before you point the finger, sniff it. Did you hear that one?
Sometimes it's either up your ass or someone else's.
Correct.
So I know that like this whole idea of short and sweet or short and salty, you know, I think it's just keep it simple, stupid. It's keep it kind of short and sweet or salty and really focus on the intention and the value and the richness in what you're saying rather than like going on and on and on and on and on.
Yeah. I've heard about that KISS method so long, like keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
And it's very, very true. Like it's there's a lot of power in keeping something simple and keeping it valuable because your words have meaning and you don't have to go on and on and on. Like we've been watching Traders.
Yeah.
And how many times did they say about John that they were sitting at the round table and they were like, he just talks so much. Like
season 2
US
of the
version. US. Yeah. And they're like, John, we get it. You want to vote Phaedra out? Like moving on.
Yes.
Like they have said how frustrated they've gotten.
That's a perfect example. Okay. If you haven't seen Traders season 2, like you have to, because Phaedra is
a queen.
Gold.
She is a queen.
Oh my God. And you know what? She's a perfect example of short and sweet because you know what? When she had something to say at the round tables, that's when the fire comes out. And that's when like you really hear everything and it's effective.
Yeah.
And it's really great at controlling a situation or communicating your point of view and really kind of grabbing control and like holding on to the power in any conversation.
She held the space of that room because she said to them, I'm not going to plead my case. Like I'm leaving it up to God and to fate and whatever's meant to be will be. And everyone was flabbergasted.
Exactly. I read a book way back in the day called Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. And it really had a huge impact in me in how I talk. And I always felt like the most intelligent person in the room is usually the quietest. Because they're always listening and they're always engaged, but they're not necessarily saying what's on their mind. Maybe that's very Scorpio of me. When you are listening and when you are really being mindful and demure, you can have the most introspection and you also have the most well-rounded point of view because you can still hold on to your own ideas. You can still hold on to what you think and what you want to say, but you have all of the information. You've been participating in absorbing all of the data.
Well, my final piece of story time for you before we wrap up this episode is that when I was in my early 20s, I would always be the one talking. Whether it was in relationships, at work, in life, with friends, I would always be the one that was like very out there, very extroverted, right? But I feel like now, when I hit 27, maybe 28, I feel like I've pulled back.
Right.
And I'm listening more and I'm very short and sweet. And I also find that people respect you more when you have less to say. When you just kind of observe and listen, it makes people like be on their edge a bit more, edge of the seat.
Right. I know that people value communication, and that's a really important part of communication.
100%.
Good communication is listening. The more you really focus on absorbing information and listening, you're going to just find yourself speaking less.
Well, there's a difference between listening and being heard.
There is.
Right? Like you can be listening to someone, but you're not actually absorbing what they've said.
Correct.
Or you could have absorbed what they said and then you take action.
Yeah. And that comes with saying less.
Right.
You say less when you're listening. And then when you speak, you understand more perspectives. You have a little bit more of a well-rounded control.
100%.
And that's what I think people really value instantly.
Absolutely.
Well, we appreciate all of our listeners tuning in to Modern Gaze. This is a short and sweet episode, but not too short.
And not too sweet.
Well, until next week, keep building the vibrant life you want by owning your authentic self. Hey everyone, it's Daniel and Garet from Modern Gaze. You know how we're all about owning your authentic self, right? Well, we found something that's totally in line with that. It's called Homes Decor, spelled with 2 M's. Yeah, like home, but make it French and fabulous. This place is not your average home decor store. It's a vibe.
Picture this, guys. Provocative pillows that start conversations, gay vintage art that's like a time machine to the past, and futuristic drag queen portraits that are just iconic. It's all about expressing you.
And get this, they're offering free international shipping for orders over $200.
Save that money.
So you can be fabulous no matter where you are in the world.
Oh, and because we love you guys, use the code ModernGaze at checkout for a cheeky 10% off. It's like a high five from us to you.
So go ahead, make your space as vibrant as you are. Check out Homes, that's HOMMES, decor.com, and let your home tell your story.